All right. So, my name is Miss Sandling, and I'm the Title I coordinator here at Red Elementary. And we are so excited to have, Mr. Trevino's here. What a wonderful, wonderful surprise. Hello, Mr. Trevino.
Hello, how are you all? Hello, Miss Marisa Rodriguez.
Oh, I think she's still on mute.
I'm muted. Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. So glad to see you here, or hear you.
And thank you for providing this workshop for the parents.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. So Red Elementary is so excited to introduce Mrs. Marisa Rodriguez. She is a certified pediatric brain health parenting coach and founder of Quirky Kids. She's also a parent at Red, and she's had over a decade of experience of coaching families, parents, and students to help give them the tools and helpful strategies to use for them to calm down, to mitigate their anxiety and other behavior challenges that we might see in our students, especially during this little time that we call a global pandemic. So please help me welcome Mrs. Marisa Rodriguez of Quirky Kids.
Thank you so much. That was a great introduction. Yes, I have been actually working with Quirky Kids all over the world for about 20 years. But really in the last 10 years, the science that we now have to help our kids and help ourselves is so phenomenal. It's way more progressed, and it makes it a lot easier. So I've got some good things for you guys today. Thank you so much for showing up. It shows a lot about the kind of parent you are, that you would take an hour out of your day to do this. So let's go ahead and get started here.
So today we are going to be talking about a different approach to handling the really chaotic moments in your home. So these are the high level fight, flight, freeze response moments, the ones that make you feel like, oh my gosh, what did my kid just do? I'm embarrassed, I'm frustrated, I'm mad at them, like big, strong offenses. You could feel really scared about what you're seeing. Maybe they're harming themselves or harming somebody else, and you're thinking, how are they going to make it through life? Okay. So we're going to hit these moments head on. Now, one thing that I think is helpful for parents to know is that all of us, every human being has this hypothetical cup, and everybody wakes up in the morning and some people's cups are already full. Okay. They cannot handle much more stress without going into these fight, fight, or freeze moments where they're out of control, really moody, hyperactive, just really mean, or really, really awkward. And then, we've been able to identify what's actually filling those cups. So you can kind of see here, I've listed a few things. We're not going to get into that today. This is what I do in my coaching practice is we basically figure out how to empty out some of those cups so kids have more threshold and can just enjoy life more, kids and adults. So when your kid wakes up, how full is their cup already? If you have a quirky kid with ADHD, autism, OCD, or if you do, you're going to struggle a little bit, and you're certainly going to see some of these moments that we're talking about more often. So if this is you, this is not where we want you at the end of the night. Your cup has spilled over. There's been some sort of tantrum. You've probably reacted because how much can a person actually take of this, especially if it's constant? And you're going to bed and you're thinking, okay, what is wrong with my kid? What is wrong with me? What is wrong with us? And what I want to tell you is there is not a darn thing wrong with your kid. There's not a darn thing wrong with you. Okay. Your kid is okay. You are okay. What's typically happening is their cup is too full and we need to get that emptied out. Or what we're going to talk about today is how we can actually handle these moments better so that we can see changed behavior afterwards. And they're just not so stressful. These moments can last like an hour to many hours to even to the next day. And ideally, we'd like to get them cut off in about like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and then move on with life. So I'm going to show you how we can do that today. Now, I love to workshop things. I think it's just easier to learn when you can apply it right away. And so obviously we can't do that because we're virtual and we're not live where we could role play. So I just want to try to simulate this by having you think and really think and have it in the front of your brain about the last blow up that you had. Okay, remember how you felt. Okay, were you angry, embarrassed? Were you frustrated? Were you concerned of how you were reacting or how they were reacting? Just think about what you could do and what you couldn't do in that moment. Okay, I think that's going to help you as you learn what I'm about to teach you. And this is how we roll with quirky kids. I'm going to try to simplify this for you as much as possible. So I'm going to teach you one brain fact, and then I'm going to pull out some brain tricks, which are basically support tools that we have to help our kids in really tough moments. So those are the new things you're going to learn. And then all you're going to do is add it to what is already going well. And we're going to explore that right now. And we just add all of that to these chaotic moments. And hopefully you're going to have a whole new situation in the next moment that you have with your kid where you have to deal with this, which I'm assuming if you have a quirky kid like I do, it'll probably be within the next 24 hours. So let's see how this goes for you. If you're taking notes, I think it's really helpful to have something listed out about what is going well. Okay. So what discipline is working for you right now? Are spankings, yelling, timeouts, giving different rewards for things, talking things out. Have you noticed that this parent having this conversation works better than this individual? Or maybe even, okay, when we are on the porch talking, he's calmer than, if we're just in the room where this happened. So just take a moment, even pause the video if you need to, and just write out what is working for you. Okay, next question. What makes you sparkle as a person? Okay, what do I mean by sparkle? I'm talking about what makes you you, okay? What makes you unique? Because if you use this in your parenting, you are going to be able to connect with your child in a way that is really impactful. So what are you into? Music. Are you into deep thinking, like deep conversations? Do you like to go bowling? Do you like to, play sports? Do you like to go horseback riding? Whatever it is, if you can include your child into that, actually in brain scans, I can't even tell you how many hundreds of brain scans I've studied of all kinds of quirkiness and what we need to do to help that child with that specific brain type. And one thing that we saw is anytime that needs were met and a connection was made between a parent and a child, even with deeply rooted bad behaviors, the brain could learn new behaviors much easier, and they would be able to recall them when they needed to, do something different. When faced with a hard situation, they needed to recall a new behavior. They were able to do it much quicker if they had some sort of fun connection like this with the family. So what better way to do it than do it with something that interests you? Okay. So go ahead and write that down. And then what I want to do is just take a look at what these flight, fight, freeze, or fawn responses are, because we need to know, kind of translate it to what you see your kid doing. So the first one is basically your child saying, I'm not going to do this. They could either be fighting you verbally or they could be fighting you physically. Okay, the next one is flight. And I don't know what you are, but I am definitely a flight. Like there is some sort of conflict and I'm out of there, right? So I'm out. And this can also look like numbing something out, just kind of complete avoidance of whatever conflict is going on. Now, freeze is very interesting because freeze goes to a very deep part of a survival part of our brain. And a child or an adult that freezes in moments, they kind of see nothing, hear nothing, and you're like yelling, and I'm like, are you listening to me? And it's just blank stare. these kids really need a lot of support to come out of that so that they can do something hard. Now, fawn response, you might not have heard of this one, and I'm so glad that it's really been added to these fear responses because it's so true. You can have a kid that just says, okay, yeah, I'll do that. They're so compliant. They're the ones that say, yes, I'm sorry. And then 10 minutes later, they do the same thing. And this can be really toxic as you grow up. So many people have this, this fear of rejection. And so I'm just going to comply. I don't have my own personal boundaries, or I've never been allowed to even know who I am because I've had to please everybody else. And they don't have that sense of self. So they comply and boundaries go. And, you can have a lot of issues in relationships when you kind of overpromise and underdeliver. So here is the big brain fact that you're going to learn today. It is very simple. It takes the brain about 20 minutes to completely calm down and be in a state where it can even learn after it's been at the peak of flight, fight, freeze, or fawn. So how does this look like? What does this look like in your family? Well, you're probably using your sparkle and all of your strengths and all of the good parenting on a brain, on your child's brain, that is actually wired in that moment to fight you, yell at you, not want to learn, run away, stare at you blankly, or just say yes and okay, just kidding, I'm just going to do it again in 10 minutes because I actually don't have the skill to do what you're asking me to do. I just don't want you to be mad at me. This is why you might be banging your head up against the wall at night, and there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. You just need to utilize those 20 minutes better so that you can get to the place of being able to use that sparkle that you have. Now, here's where I'm going to give you a brain trick from that toolbox, any of those boxes. And this is something that you can actually teach your kid tonight if you want to teach them. And it can be dialogue between the both of you when they are kind of flippy, when they're kind of, getting real close to having these outbursts. This comes from Dr. Dan Siegel. I highly suggest reading any of his books. You can also Google him. He's got tons of videos online that can break this down even further for you. So this would be a hand model of the brain. So this is looking at like my brain here. This is the top part of your brain, and this is the bottom, the downstairs part of your brain. Now, if you just think about what you already know about the brain, just apply it to this. This top part is your left brain and your right brain, and this is doing the majority of your thinking, okay? It's computing information, it's reading social cues, it's adding creativity and empathy and logic and reasoning, and it's, causing you to be able to handle situations well, focus, be clear with communication, things like that. Well, this downstairs part of the brain is your fight, fight, freeze, or fawn response. It is in charge of keeping you alive. It is there for protection. And if you think about it, this is all for good purposes. We are supposed to have anxiety. We're supposed to be able to embrace anxiety. And that anxiety gives us the intuition that we should break up with this boyfriend. This isn't good for me. Or I shouldn't cross the street at this time. I might get run over. Or, there's a mountain lion. Get out of, the jungle. If you're the next time you're in a jungle, it's going to save your life. So what happens and why we need these 20 minutes is because when our bodies respond to fight, flight, or freeze, our neurons between here disconnect. So we cannot utilize this top part of the brain. All we can do is fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. But as the 20 minutes happens, depending on how much care we give to the brain during that time and how much care we give to our bodies, it starts to come back online. And now we can learn. And now we can reflect on what we've done and really decide, how do I move forward here? But like the last slide, what's happening? We're just saying, say sorry right now, or, go to your room, or, spankings or whatever you're doing. Excuse me. And we're not able to get too far, are we? Okay. So, let's take a look at what your flight, fight, freeze, or fawn response is. On here, just take a look for a second and see if there's anything that you can relate to. So there's so many different ways that we cope, right? If we're at this level of response and it's happening, especially if it's happening too often, we just begin to cope and it becomes part of our personality or our lifestyle. And we definitely don't want that to happen unless we're able to do it in a healthy way. So let's look at now, what is your kid's response? Do they get super, super rigid? Like there's no logic that you can add to their situation. They have decided how they feel about something and they are not going to budge. Do they get out of control? Do they just flood in their right brain and just become so overwhelmed that, again, they can't even think straight? Do they withdraw and hide? A lot of kids are quirky kids with different types of behavioral disorders. I just call them quirky brain structures. We might stim. We might start to act very awkwardly. And so if you can help identify what your kid's response is, now you can translate it as, okay, we're just flipped. There's nothing wrong with us. We're flipped and we need something to help calm us down. So let's start to get into what we do in those magic kind of 20 minutes. Simple model here again. We're going to take some of those brain tricks. We're going to meet the underlying need that you begin to get curious about in those 20 minutes and start to kind of sleuth out to figure out what that child's behavior is communicating. And then you're going to use your sparkle to discipline, which discipline just means to teach. Okay. So when you turn that reaction time into calm down time, the way that you're going to know that you're ready to teach is you're looking for two things. You're looking for the left brain and the right brain to come back online. Okay, so the left brain is all about words. So when they can use their words respectfully-ish, okay, think about yourself. You get in a fight with your spouse or your mom or something, and you're really mad about it and you feel slighted. You're not going to be like, oh, okay, like, I can't wait to just do what you want me to do. That might actually be the fawn response still in full effect. So we can expect to be grumpy right now, okay? The other thing that we're looking with the right brain I've learned to look for is just, are we still chaotic or do we have some control of our body? And I can typically see it in our body. If we're still doing pinwheels on the ground over and over, we're probably not ready. If they're squishing themselves in between stuff and they're just kind of hyperactive moving around or hurting themselves, hitting themselves, we're not ready yet. And that's actually the moment, if their bodies are still out of control, we're going to learn in just a moment how to give some sensory input to their movement to help them calm down. Now, as the parent, you could be in flight, fight, or freeze where your kid's not even in flight, fight, or freeze, but they have triggered you, okay? They have ticked you off, and we need to figure out how to get you calm. So anything we say in the next couple slides here that we can do for a kid, you can do for yourself. So you can just think self-care. I deserve this self-care. You can wait a minute. I will get with you in 10 minutes. I need some time to calm down. That strategy is actually a great way for mirror to your child what you actually want them to do when they're flaring. So it all works together. So for a parent, we want to have some sense of control. Okay, we're just not going to lash out with them, 2 minutes into talking with them. And we want to really have an understanding of like, okay, what's going on here? Like, last week I was getting on my kids. They were fighting about something. And I realized, okay, I have not fed you guys like, a snack or lunch, anything. You are hangry. I'm hangry. And you guys are probably losing it because of that. And that was true. I fed them and then they were like, kind, normal people again. So getting to the root of what's going on is key to what is happening in these few minutes that you have. Now, the 3 ways to calm. It's the three things: calm their environment, calm their mind, and calm their movement. And just remember, different offenses, different outbursts need different things. So like, again, these outbursts, you might just need to calm for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just something to bring. So what we call regulation or balance is going to give you so much bang for your buck when you go to really teach them what they need to learn. So I just kind of skim this down. In my coaching classes, we really dive into these things more and give a lot of ideas specific towards families, but I kind of just skimmed off of, the few that just kind of work for most people. The first thing is calm in their environment. Calm yourself. You are their environment. Let them borrow your calm. Your gestures, how tall you're standing over them. If you're like this compared to at eye level with them, the countenance on your face, all of these things matter. So the more work you can do on yourself of being aware, the better. If the TV is blaring and a fight happens and you need to talk it out, let's just try to turn off the TV first and see if, okay, is this better? Can we talk now? Do you have words, and do you have controlled bodies? I love to change rooms. If it just gets too intense, and especially if there's a lot of kids involved, taking kids and putting them in separate rooms or going out to the porch or going to take a walk outside can be really impactful just to set a different tone. Okay, so that's kind of calming your environment. Now, calming their brain. We really dig into this, especially with quirky kids who just have horrible, can have terrible self-esteems in there. Just a lot of voices in their heads, and we call those thought distortions. So there's a method that Dr. Daniel Siegel came up with, or kind of researched and came out with, called Name It to Tame It. And so basically it's name what you see to calm it down. And in our brains, there is a neurochemical called GABA that's actually released and onto this limbic part of your brain to calm it down, to get this lid down a lot faster. And the way to do that is to simply name what's going on. I can see you're really frustrated right now. I can understand why. Like, whoa, you look like you are really out of control right now. You must be really frustrated. I like to name it for any child who's under 5, especially as they're getting to be more intuitive about their body. And it's now kind of recommended, the older they get, the more that you can ask an open-ended question to get them to identify. Like, you can say something like, oh, wow, you've got some big feelings out there. What's going on? Or, whoa, your face is red. You must be feeling something. What is going on? Right there, what you're telling your child is, I am accepted, you understand me, and you're willing to listen to me. And what we really want to get to is, we are locking arm in arm, buddy. I know this is your first rodeo at life. I know you maybe should know some of these things, but you don't, and you need somebody to teach you. And I'm not afraid of you needing to learn something. I'm going to be the one that locks arms with you, and I'm going to help you do this. And so anything you can do to kind of give them that feeling of it is safe to learn. Actually, we have a saying in our home, all kids are learning. So when a kid gets really embarrassed, they might be more apt to lie. If they start to kind of like bring on that lie, remember, all kids are learning. Let's be careful not to twist our words. Give mom truth words right now. And they can much easier get the courage up to have that conversation with you than if you go, don't you lie, are you lying to me? And that can go in an opposite way. They're immediately going to get defensive. Okay, calming their movement. I love this one because the majority of kids that I work with them being quirky, is they have lots of dysregulated sensory systems. So sound and movement and lights and all of that can get a child very wired, very moody, very angry, very awkward, very quickly. And so even our typically developing kids can just really benefit from different types of movement and deep pressure. And this is all under the category of sensory integration, if you're familiar with that word. So walking, swinging, like a lot of times if we're doing a big teaching moment in our home, we will get in a beanbag chair, or I have a swing that just kind of encapsulates them in it. And actually we have 2 swings on the porch. And so in a moment where we all need to come down, we happen to have more conversations out on the porch. And so that kind of weight, just think of how that weight feels for you. If you're a person that loves weighted blankets or hugs or things like that. Some kids love them. Some kids don't want to be touched at all. So just being mindful of what works for them. So if you can calm down those 3 things and get them to where they've got words and control bodies and you're all good to go, the next step you've already got. It's your sparkle. It's your curiosity. It's getting on the same page with them, you using your strengths and all the good things that you have. Okay. Now that all sounds easy, right? But remember I asked you, okay, how was it in that moment for you in that last big blow up? You know, what were you feeling? What was your kid feeling? What were you dealing with? And in my experience, sometimes it's easy to do that, especially if I'm having a good day. Well, sometimes it doesn't. And so this is where I've learned over time. You're not going to find this in any textbook. This is just Coach Marisa, who's worked with hundreds and hundreds of quirky kids for 20 years. I have the 70-30 rule, and it works darn good for me. 70% of the time, I am a teaching parent. I'm focusing on cultivating this child and preparing them for when they move out of my home or out of my world. I'm going to equip them to manage their stress for life so they have more opportunities, more good things ahead. The other 30%, I am an Italian mama who just is going to handle it how I need to handle it in that human moment. Okay. Now, I'm just going to say when parents are starting off and for sure when Jake and I were starting off like this, I heard you give your kid grace and you're a softie on them. And like, I'm coming from a home that, I was spanked all the time. I was, there was no touchy feely stuff at all. Okay. I'm Italian Polish. And so for a lot of families, it's kind of like one foot's on the dock of how you were raised and how you see other parents just kind of handling things, how they handle things. And then, your spouse might be in this boat trying something new and the boat is leaving. What are you going to do? Just know that it is 100% okay to have either one. Just try to err on the side of more teaching so that your kid can walk out of your home with some skills that are going to better their life. And why would you want to invest this time? The statistics for me are really important because I work with actually children and adults of all different ages. And right now, specifically, I'm working with a ton of middle school girls that are in the private schools. And the level of anxiety and depression that I see in the pressures that are on these kids are creating a lot of issues. And if there's anything that I can say to an elementary school aged parent or toddler is handle this now, because when that child is 13 and older, developmentally, you just lose more control over them. They are developmentally wired to be more social and to find more of their independence. So I send you my heart and everything that I can to say, get this now in your home, establish this now in your home, because your kid's going to be able to choose whether or not they do this later on. And you have these few years where you do have a lot more control. Okay, so let's practice what we learned. And why not do this on the Rodriguez children? So I have 2 very, very quirky kids, and they have given me permission to tell you a little bit about them. They are brilliantly wonderful. Ben has given me permission to tell you that he has dyslexia. And boy, does that give us some challenges. But we love his dyslexia because it gives him so many different facets of his brain to think of things in layers. He's absolutely brilliant. It's just that the kid struggle so much to read. And so everything that I've taught you here today is, I mean, we deal with stuff in our home and it works. So I'm going to give you just two little things for you to practice on and to kind of relate to your own home. So this was last Saturday. Anna is crying because she wanted to make her own toast because she is big and she did not need her brother to do it. Well, I told her brother to do it. And he is extremely sensitive to sound. I don't know if anybody else has any kids like this, but if there is too much noise, his lid flips and he really has no control over that. It's a biological thing he deals with. And so he's like this, he's freaking out. He's absolutely in fight, fight, or freeze. She's screaming her head off. What do you do? So just take a moment to think, okay, what would you do right now? Goodness. So actually, as this happened, Jake and I were like in the other room. We were having a really intense conversation about something that we are having to make decisions on. So this was just not a good moment for our family. So we're all a little bit lit, if you can say. Our lids have all flipped. And so basically, we took Ben into the other room. We got him calmed. I just talked to Anna. I was like, okay, Anna, what's going on? Well, I'm crying. She's crying about doing this. And what it came down to is it took her a few minutes just to calm down. She does not like to be touched. She likes distraction. And so we pulled some of my tricks for distraction. And then when we talked, I basically said, you want to be big, don't you? Yes, I want to be big. And I said, okay, well, it's not safe to be in the toaster without me. So next time I want you to ask permission. And I will say yes if I can say yes. Let's practice that real quick. Okay, what do you want to do, Anna? I want to make toast. Okay, well, let's practice. What do you say? May I have permission to make toast? Yes, you can. And let me go watch you to make sure you're safe. Done. And the next time she made toast, she came and asked me. It wasn't a big deal. Now, Ben, ears are a big thing. And so anytime it's a biological issue going on, we have to give support and accommodations to this child. And I definitely want to wring his head sometimes when he's acting, and he's flighting. I can't even tell the noises set him off. And so some different things that we can do here is just simply give him a break to go calm down. Some kids like headphones. We're not so into that, but he just really likes to go run. And he likes some deep pressure. So we have like a weighted lap pad. And we've really found that running is a passion for him. So we tend to just kind of have him run a couple times throughout the day on days like this where it gets loud, and he's able to stay balanced a lot easier. We found this answer because of trial and error and practicing. And that's a point that I wanted to bring up about this slide. If you try this at home and it just feels messy, right? Like, am I doing this right? Am I not? You're doing it perfect. This is supposed to be messy. If your whole situation right here can look like discussions that are very curious, very intuitive, trying to figure something out, that is enough. You can build on them from time to time. And what is going to happen, I'm going to skip over the next slide, but I will just say about this one, how many people have issues with their kids losing a game and flipping their lid? It's the same tactics that you use. Just keep doing the calm down and then coming back to, okay, what's going on there? A lot of it is where we work on the mindset, asking open-ended questions to figure out what's the problem with losing? What is the problem with failing? You can pull all the goods from your life. If you take them out gardening and your plants have died, talk about failure, things like that. So let me get to what I was just saying about why discussions are okay and why it's okay to look messy. Our brains have what are called neural pathways in them. Okay. So think of when you learned how to drive to maybe your job or maybe your house for the first time when you moved there. Maybe the first time you were driving there, you got a little lost and you had to like make one U-turn or, a couple turns around. Your brain is learning these patterns. And after a few days, you had the pattern and it's like you could do it automatically. You don't even have to think about, okay, turn right here, turn left here. Your body actually automatically does it. That's what you're doing in your kids with what you're doing with the techniques that I'm just teaching you now. The first few times that, I would tell Anna to obey me, they didn't work very great. We had to kind of work on things. We had to give consequences. We had to kind of figure out, why aren't you listening to me? What is going on in there? And then it doesn't take long. If you're really curious and you're really kind, it doesn't take long to kind of figure out what's going on. And if it does take a long time, that's where you hire me and I help you figure it out. And so our brains take about 3 months to create these new neural pathways to where it's just by default, they do things a lot easier. Okay. So what would be a sign that you need more help? And we're wrapping things up here. Well, if you have been working on a skill for 3 months and it's not working for you, like you still haven't had the progress that I'm telling you that you can have, that's something that is like, okay, what's going on here? Is there something developmentally going on? Are they getting bullied? Are there some biological factors going on? Are there some allergies that might be contributing? There can be a lot of different things, and we might have to take a deeper look. So if this is you, then, and you do need to take a deeper look, I'm here to help you. You can go to my website, which is www.yourkidsok.com, and sign up for the next coaching class. In that class, it's 4 weeks. We kind of go step by step to kind of dive into more of your specific issues, and we figure out how to empty out their cup. So that is pretty much it. And, thank you so much. Like I said earlier, if you've come to this class, you are really a stellar parent, want something great for your kids. So I hope this was helpful for you.
It shows a lot about the kind of parent you are, that you would take an hour out of your day to do this. So let's go ahead and get started here.
Yes, Ms. Rodriguez, thank you so much for the excellent and helpful presentation. And I apologize, I misspoke during the introduction. You have over 2 decades of experience, and it definitely shows we really value this service that you're providing to our Red parents, because I know as an interventionist on campus, so many of our students are just feeling so overwhelmed. So thank you, parents, for attending this awesome workshop so you can go forward with these strategies, and we're going to see amazing success. And before we sign off, if you don't mind, parents, I'll put an attendance form in the chat. If you could please fill it out real quick so I can make sure we have credit for everyone that has attended with us today. And hopefully, Ms. Rodriguez, we can have you back later on this year.
Oh, I'd love that. Sounds good.
Thank you
Well, I
so
care a lot
much.
about Red families. We're all in it together. We are all in
Yeah.
it together. We want safe, happy classrooms for our kids, and so anything I can do to help.
Absolutely.